Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man in the known world. He commanded armies. He governed an empire of 70 million people. He held the power of life and death over every person in the Western world. And every single morning, before the advisors arrived, before the Senate convened, before the weight of an empire settled onto his shoulders, he sat alone and reminded himself of 5 things: not strategies, not plans, not the administrative priorities of a man managing the most complex political entity the ancient world had ever produced. 5 rules, simple enough to write in a private journal, demanding enough that he apparently needed to return to them every single day for 19 years. Because here is what most people do not understand about Marcus Aurelius. He was not naturally serene. He was not born composed. He did not wake up every morning already embodying the wisdom that fills the pages of his meditations. He wrote those pages because he kept forgetting, because the world kept pulling him away from the person he was trying to be. And the 5 rules he returned to, daily, imperfectly, across 19 years of war and betrayal and loss, and the relentless demands of an empire that never stopped needing something from him, are the same 5 rules that will change the way you move through your life. Not tomorrow, starting today. Stay with me. If you are someone who wants to build the kind of inner strength, clarity, and composure that Marcus Aurelius spent 19 years developing, subscribe to this channel. Every week, we go deep into Stoic wisdom through real stories and timeless principles that help you face whatever life brings without losing yourself in it. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss what comes next. Before we get into the 5 rules, I need to tell you something about Marcus Aurelius that most people miss when they read his meditations. He was not writing for you. He was not writing for posterity, not for publication, not for the students who would one day study his words in universities across the world. He was writing for himself. The meditations are a private journal, discovered after his death and published without his knowledge or consent. They are the unpolished, unperformed, sometimes repetitive writings of a man arguing with himself, catching himself when he was drifting, pulling himself back when the pressures of empire were making him someone he did not want to be. He wrote the same reminders over and over because he kept needing them. And that, more than any of the specific wisdom the book contains, is the most important thing to understand about Marcus Aurelius. He was not a finished product. He was a daily practice. And the 5 rules he built that practice around are not things you achieve once and then possess permanently. They are things you return to, daily, imperfectly, for the rest of your life. That is not a flaw in the system. That is the system. Let us begin. 1. Control what you can. Release what you cannot. Imagine a man named Thomas. He is 58 years old, a senior sales director for a pharmaceutical company in Boston who has spent 26 years building a career on the ability to influence outcomes, to move people, to turn no's into yeses and hesitation into commitment. He is exceptionally good at this, and he is, for the first time in his professional life, failing at it completely. His teenage son, 17 years old, bright, capable, and currently making every decision that Thomas would not make, is not responding to influence, persuasion, or the careful application of 26 years of professional expertise in human motivation. Thomas has tried everything: conversations, consequences, the removal of privileges, the granting of freedoms, the strategic deployment of stories from his own adolescence, carefully edited to make the relevant point without appearing to make it. Nothing is working. And Thomas, who has never encountered a situation he could not eventually move if he applied enough intelligence and effort and patience, is discovering something that is genuinely new to him. There are things he cannot control. His son is one of them. Now let us go to Marcus Aurelius, not to a battlefield or a Senate chamber, to a quiet moment in his journal where he wrote, for himself, not for any audience, the single principle that sits at the foundation of everything else in the Stoic tradition. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And then, more specifically, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. These are not separate ideas. They are two expressions of the same insight. You cannot control your son's decisions, Thomas. You cannot control the Senate's opposition, Marcus. You cannot control the weather, the economy, the behavior of other drivers, the opinions of people who have decided what they think of you. What you can control, the only territory that is genuinely, absolutely permanently yours, is how you respond. Your thoughts, your actions, your effort, your values, the standard you hold yourself to, regardless of what the world around you is doing. That is it. That is the whole territory. And here is what Marcus discovered, and what Thomas eventually discovered, about accepting that boundary honestly. It does not make you less effective. It makes you more effective. Because the person who has stopped spending energy on what they cannot control has a surplus of energy available for what they can. Thomas stopped trying to control his son. He started controlling himself, the quality of his presence when they were together, the consistency of the standard he modeled rather than preached, the patience he brought to a relationship that required patience rather than strategy. He could not make his son make better decisions, but he could be the kind of father whose presence made better decisions more likely. And sometimes, not always, not on Thomas's timeline, that is enough. Here is rule 1. Identify clearly what is in your control and what is not. Your thoughts, your responses, your effort, your values, these are yours. Everything outside that boundary, other people's behavior, opinions, decisions, the outcomes of situations you are involved in but do not govern, release them. Not with indifference, with the focused energy of a person who has stopped fighting battles they cannot win and started winning the only battle that was ever actually theirs. Control what you can. Release what you cannot. Everything else follows from this. Taste and live according to your values, not your moods. Now meet a woman named Sandra. She is 52 years old, a family physician in a mid-sized city in Georgia who has spent 24 years in a profession that requires her, on difficult days, to be exactly the same quality of person she is on easy ones. She is mostly good at this, but there are days, and she will admit this only to herself, when the quality of her presence in the consultation room depends more on what happened that morning than on the values she chose the profession to express. The patient who gets the version of Sandra that had a good morning is receiving something subtly different from the patient who gets the version of Sandra that had an argument with her husband before she left the house. She knows this. She does not know what to do about it. Marcus Aurelius knew exactly what to do about it. He wrote, in a line that reads like a man catching himself in exactly Sandra's situation, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. And more directly, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This is rule 2 in its simplest form, and it is more demanding than it sounds. Because living according to your values, rather than your moods, requires something that most people have never formally developed. It requires knowing what your values actually are, not the values you would list if someone asked, not the values that appear on the mission statement of the organization you work for, or the principles you would cite in a job interview. The values that actually govern your behavior when nobody is watching and nothing is easy. Marcus was precise about his. He returned to them in his journal with the regularity of a man who needed to see them written down to believe they were real. Justice, rationality, courage, temperance, not as aspirations, as operating principles, as the standard against which he measured every decision, not after the fact, not in retrospect, but in the moment when the mood was pulling him in a different direction. He wrote, "Confine yourself to the present, not the bad morning, not the argument before the commute, not the accumulated frustrations of a week that had asked more than it gave. The present, this patient, this conversation, this moment, this decision. What do my values require of me right now? regardless of how I feel right now. Sandra eventually built a practice that took her 30 seconds and cost her nothing except the willingness to do it consistently. Before she walked into each consultation room, before the door opened and the patient looked up and the interaction began, she asked herself one question: who do I want to be in this room? Not how do I feel, not what kind of morning did I have. Who do I want to be? And then she walked in as that person. Not perfectly, not every time, but more consistently than she had managed before she had the question. The patients who came in the afternoons of difficult days started receiving something closer to what the patients who came on easy mornings received. Because Sandra was no longer letting the morning decide who she was deciding. Here is rule 2, know your values. Write them down if you need to. Make them specific enough that they can actually govern a decision in a difficult moment. And then, in the moment when the mood is pulling you away from them, ask yourself the question that Marcus Aurelius asked himself every day in his journal. Who do I want to be right now? And then be that, imperfectly, consistently, regardless of what the morning gave you. Your values are the only reliable compass you have. Use them. See things as they are, not as you fear them to be. Imagine a man named Richard. He is 61 years old, a recently widowed accountant from a small city in Michigan who lost his wife of 33 years 14 months ago and has been, since that loss, living inside a version of his own life that fear has been constructing around him. Not dramatically, not in crisis, at least not in the way crisis is usually visible, but quietly, persistently, in the small decisions of every day. He has stopped driving on the highway because the last time he was on the highway was the day his wife was taken to the hospital, and something in his nervous system has connected those two things permanently. He has stopped attending the community events he and his wife attended together because the absence of her beside him at those events is a version of the loss he does not know how to face in public. He has stopped making plans further than a week ahead because plans feel in the aftermath of a loss that arrived without warning like a kind of arrogance he is no longer capable of. He is not depressed in the clinical sense. He is afraid, and fear. The Stoics understood this with the precision of people who had examined it closely, is almost always worse than the thing it is protecting you from. Marcus Aurelius wrote, in a passage that feels like it was written specifically for Richard, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." And Epictetus, who had experienced genuine loss, genuine fear, and the particular kind of suffering that comes from having no control over external circumstances, wrote something that cuts to the center of what Richard is experiencing. Men are disturbed not by the things which happen, but by the opinions about the things. Richard is not being destroyed by the highway. He is being destroyed by what his mind has decided the highway means. He is not being prevented from living by the community events. He is being prevented by the story his mind has constructed about what it will feel like to be there without her. He is not incapable of making plans. He is afraid of what it means to hope. And every one of those fears, real, understandable, rooted in genuine loss, is larger in his mind than it is in reality. Not because the loss was not real. It was devastating and real and permanent. But because the mind, in its attempt to protect Richard from further pain, has been constructing a version of the world that is more dangerous than the actual world. And the Stoic practice, the specific, demanding, deeply compassionate practice of seeing things as they actually are, rather than as fear has constructed them, is the beginning of Richard's way back. Marcus called this the discipline of perception, not optimism, not the performance of positive thinking. The honest, clear-eyed examination of what is actually there, stripped of the fear-constructed narrative. And the question that follows, what is this actually? And what does it actually require of me? The highway is a road. Richard is a competent driver. The fear connected to it is real, but it is not information about the highway. It is information about grief. The community events are gatherings of people who knew and loved his wife and who would understand, better than most, exactly what it means to be there without her. The plans are not arrogance. They are the way a person communicates to themselves that they intend to still be here. Richard started small. He drove on the highway, once, for 5 minutes. Then he turned around and drove home. And the thing that happened, the thing that always happens when the fear is finally confronted with the actual reality it has been protecting you from, was that the highway was just a road. Here is rule 3. When fear is governing your decisions, and it will because fear is one of the most persuasive forces available to the human mind, stop and examine what you are actually afraid of. Not what your mind has constructed around it. The actual thing. Ask, what is this, stripped of the story I have built around it? And then ask, what does this actually require of me? Almost always, not always, but almost always, the actual thing is smaller than the fear. See it clearly, and then move toward it, not away. That is where your life is. 4. Act for the good of others, not just yourself. Now meet a woman named Gloria. She is 64 years old, a retired teacher from a suburb of Philadelphia who spent 37 years in a profession that is, at its best, an act of sustained generosity toward people who are too young to fully appreciate what they are receiving. She gave a great deal across those 37 years, and she retired 14 months ago into a life that she had not fully designed, with the vague plan of finally doing things for herself, finally prioritizing her own needs, finally making choices based on what she wanted rather than what the classroom required. And she is miserable, not depressed, not ungrateful. Miserable in the specific way that a person is miserable when they have organized their entire life around contribution and then removed the vehicle for contribution without replacing it. The self-care she had planned, the travel, the leisure, the long mornings doing exactly what she wanted, is failing to produce the satisfaction she expected. Because Gloria is not at her core a person who is primarily sustained by what she receives, she is sustained by what she gives. And the Stoics would not have been surprised by this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, in what is perhaps the most counterintuitive line in the entire Meditations, for a culture that prioritizes self-care and personal optimization, what injures the hive injures the bee. He was describing the Stoic concept of sympathia, the interconnectedness of all human beings, the understanding that the individual cannot flourish in isolation from the community, that the self is not actually separate from the people around it, that what we give to others does not deplete us. It is, for most people most of the time, the primary source of what fills us. And then he wrote something even more direct. We are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of the upper and lower teeth. Gloria was trying to live like a single tooth, separate, self-contained, finally doing things for herself. She was built to be part of a set. The contribution, the sustained, daily, purposeful giving of herself to something larger than herself, was not the thing she needed to recover from after 37 years of teaching. It was the source of the energy that made everything else possible. She started volunteering at a literacy program, 2 mornings a week. Adults learning to read, some of them her age or older, some of them young people who had fallen through every gap the system offered. The first morning she walked in, she felt something she had not felt since the last day of school. Herself, not the retired version, not the leisure version, not the self-care version. The version that came alive in the presence of people who needed something she could give. Here is rule 4. You are not built for isolation. You are not built for self-containment. You are not primarily sustained by what you receive. Find the place where what you have, your experience, your patience, your specific combination of skills and compassion and wisdom, meets what someone else needs. Show up there, not as obligation, as the recognition that contribution is not the opposite of self-care. For most people, and especially for people who have spent their lives giving, it is the most nourishing thing available. Act for the good of others, and discover in the process that you were acting for your own good all along. 5. Memento mori. Remember, you will die. Finally, there is a man named Edward. He is 69 years old, and he is what the previous 4 rules have been building toward, not because he has mastered them, but because he has been practicing them long enough to understand what they are all in service of. He spent 40 years as a cardiologist in a large teaching hospital in London. He has been for 4 decades in the room where life and death are not abstractions, but immediate, specific physical realities that arrive without appointment and leave without explanation. He has held more hands in final moments than most people will encounter in a lifetime of living. And the thing that 4 decades of that proximity to death has given him, the thing that most people spend their entire lives avoiding, is the awareness that his own ending is coming, not as a fear, as a fact. And that fact, held clearly without flinching, as the Stoics insisted it must be held, changes everything about how he moves through the time that remains. Marcus Aurelius wrote about death more than any other subject in his meditations, not morbidly, not with despair, with the particular clarity of a man who had decided that the awareness of death was the most powerful tool available for living. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." And elsewhere, in the line that Edward has kept above his desk for 30 years, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." The Stoics called this practice memento mori. Remember that you will die, not as a punishment, as a liberation. Because the person who genuinely holds the awareness of their own mortality, not as an abstract concept, but as a felt reality that informs each day, that person makes different decisions than the person who lives as though time is unlimited. They do not postpone the conversation that matters. They do not delay the reconciliation that is overdue. They do not spend Tuesday evening doing something that does not deserve Tuesday evening. They do not treat the people they love as though there will always be another opportunity to show it. Edward goes home from the hospital and he is entirely present, not because he has achieved some meditative state of perpetual mindfulness, but because 40 years of watching people run out of time has made him constitutionally incapable of treating his own time as though it is expendable. He calls his children, not because something is wrong, because they are his children, and the call is worth making now rather than later, because later is not guaranteed. He takes the walk he planned instead of postponing it. He says the thing he means instead of the thing that is easier. He is, in the specific and unglamorous way that Marcus Aurelius was describing when he wrote those private journal entries by lamplight, a man who has let the awareness of his ending determine what he does and says and thinks. And the life that produces is not smaller than the life that looks away from death. It is larger, more vivid, more chosen, more genuinely his. Here is Rule 5. And it is the rule that makes all the others urgent. You are going to die, not as a tragedy, as a fact. And the awareness of that fact, held clearly, returned to regularly, allowed to inform the decisions of ordinary days, is the most powerful tool available for living the life you actually want to live, rather than the one you keep putting off until later. Later is not guaranteed. Today is what you have. Let that determine what you do with it. Determine what you... We started today with a man alone in the quiet of the early morning, writing reminders to himself, returning to 5 things he apparently needed to see written down to believe they were real. And we walked through those 5 rules, not as the finished wisdom of a perfect man, but as the daily practice of an imperfect one who understood that the work of becoming who you want to be is never finished. It is simply returned to, every morning, for the rest of your life. Rule 1. Control what you can, release what you cannot. Your thoughts, your responses, your values, these are yours. Everything outside that boundary, release it. Rule 2. Live according to your values, not your moods. Know what you stand for specifically enough that it can govern a decision in a difficult moment, and then let it. Rule 3. See things as they are, not as you fear them to be. Strip the story from the situation. Look at what is actually there, and then move toward it. Rule 4. Act for the good of others. You are not built for isolation. Contribution is not the opposite of self-care. For most people, it is the source of it. Rule 5. Remember you will die. Let that awareness determine what you do and say and think, not with despair, with the urgency of a person who has decided not to waste what remains. Marcus Aurelius wrote, in the final pages of a journal he never intended anyone to read, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." 5 rules. 1 instruction. Stop arguing. Be it. Starting today. In the ordinary, unglamorous, completely available Tuesday that is already here. Take care of your mind. The world will take care of itself. Until next time. If these 5 rules gave you something real, something you can carry into tomorrow, and the day after, and the years that remain, subscribe to this channel. Next week we go deeper into the Stoic principles that Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus and Seneca built their lives around, and that are available to you starting this morning. Subscribe now so you never miss what comes next. And if someone in your life needs to hear these 5 rules today, share this video with them. The best thing you can give someone is a way of seeing their own life more clearly.